In the sprawling metropolis of H City, where glass towers pierce the clouds, I discovered that friendship could be a peculiarly intimate affair. My roommate, Aiden Carter, was an enigma wrapped in designer clothes and unspoken rules. His quirks were as numerous as they were contradictory. No one was allowed to sit on his pristine bed, yet he'd insist I sleep there. He'd recoil from a water bottle offered by others, but he'd brazenly steal mine, drinking from the same spot my lips had touched moments before. I dismissed these oddities as the mysterious ways of city folk until whispers began circulating through the university halls, painting our relationship in colors I hadn't known existed. The rumors sent me into a spiral of confusion and avoidance, but Carter wasn't one to be ignored. In a moment that still burns in my memory, he cornered me against the cold wall of our dorm, his eyes blazing with something primal. His teeth found my lower lip, drawing blood, and his whispered threat carried the weight of a promise. Baby, try hiding from me again and see what happens. To the world, Aiden Carter was a carefully crafted image. The young master of the prestigious Carter family, towering at 6'3" with the kind of looks that belonged on magazine covers. His reputation preceded him, obsessively clean, notoriously short-tempered, and unapproachable. But with me, he was different, softer somehow, patient in ways that seemed to surprise even his closest friends. The revelation came through Matthew Moore, who caught me off guard with a simple question. Evan, you and Aiden Carter are so attached. Are you two dating? The concept stumped me. Dating? Can two men even date? I asked, my naivete earning me a look of disbelief from Matthew, as if I'd questioned whether the sky was blue. My world had been small, a village where the tallest building was the church steeple, and the most exciting journey was borrowing Uncle Kyle's rusty tricycle for the monthly trip to the marketplace. H City, with its endless horizons and dizzying heights, was like stepping into another world entirely. Our story began with a collision, literal and metaphorical. Lost in the mesmerizing urban landscape, I stumbled right into Carter and his entourage as they left campus for some upscale bar. My rural clumsiness manifested in a scuffed designer shoe, earning me the immediate ire of his friends. Hey, watch where you're going. Don't you have eyes? Hurry up and clean Brother Aiden's shoes, one of them snapped, the hostility clear in his voice. As I crouched down, cheeks burning with embarrassment, it was Carter himself who surprised everyone. His hand found mine, pulling me to my feet with unexpected gentleness. It's fine, he said, his eyes catching on my overstuffed backpack. Carrying all that stuff, aren't you tired? Let me help you. Where are you staying? His kindness caught me off guard. Instead of getting mad about his scuffed shoes, he wanted to help with my bags. No, I can handle it, I said, stumbling over my words. It's fine, we're not in a hurry, he replied, already telling his friends to take my bags. I just stood there, not knowing what to do while Aiden Carter waited. If you don't tell us where you're going, we'll just stand here all day, he said, raising an eyebrow. Finally, I gave in. I'm staying in Building 4, Room 410. But they walked towards Building 5 instead. I panicked and grabbed his sleeve, whispering while his friends watched, But I'm supposed to be in Building 4. Building 4 is full, he said simply. I checked earlier. The office said new students have to stay in Building 5. And that's how Aiden Carter became my roommate. When school started, I'd been worried about making friends. But Aiden Carter made it so easy. We clicked right away, and I felt so lucky. Then Matthew told me that men could date men, and I tried to brush it off. We're just good friends, I said, looking him straight in the eye. Matthew laughed, but there was no humor in it. Has Aiden Carter ever treated anyone else like this? He's always so worried about keeping things clean, but he forgets all that with you. Don't tell me that's normal for friends. Look at his other friends. Some have known him for years. Does he act like this with them? I've been his friend for 10 years and I can't even sit on his bed. So why can you? I didn't know what to say. Seeing me struggle, Matthew's face turned cold. Evan Kelly, listen to me, he said. Stay away from Aiden Carter while you still can. The Carter family is way out of your league. That night after my shower, I came back to find Aiden Carter had saved me a spot on his bed. I stopped at my bottom bunk, but he just pulled me up easily, settling me between his legs. He took the towel from my hands and started drying my hair, something so normal now that our roommates didn't even look up. But Matthew's words kept spinning in my head. Finally, I found my courage and spoke up. Aiden, I think I should sleep in my own bed from now on. The room went completely quiet. Even the guy who had been yelling about losing his game stopped mid-word. All we could hear was the fan spinning and the air conditioner running. Aiden's hands stopped moving, and he turned my face toward his. His face was serious, his eyebrows pulled together in a frown. Why are you saying this now? Did someone tell you something? I shook my head, not wanting to tell him about Matthew. It's just, I don't think it's right, and I can dry my own hair. There are lots of things I can do by myself. I kept my eyes down, afraid to look at him. Aiden's face got darker, and his eyes turned cold and sharp. I had never seen him like this before. People always said he had become calmer since meeting me, but right now, he looked ready to hurt someone. I had never been scared of him before, but I was now. Aiden didn't move for what felt like forever. When I tried to reach for my towel, shaking a little, he grabbed both my hands and held them tight. Then he roughly dried my hair with his other hand. When he finished, he threw the towel on the desk and pulled me down onto the bed with him. He wrapped his arms around me so tight there wasn't any space between us. I tried to move away, but he just held me tighter until I could barely breathe. "Don't move," he said, his voice low and cold as ice. "I'm really angry right now, and I don't know what I might do." I stayed completely still after that. I couldn't sleep all night, only finally dozing off when morning came. When I woke up, it was already noon. Aiden's face was dark with anger, and there was a fresh cut on his lip. "Come here and eat," he said shortly. I quickly washed up and sat down to eat, too scared to make him angrier. It wasn't until later that afternoon that I found out who he had fought with. Matthew Moore sat at his desk with a beaten-up face, looking at me like he hated me. He probably thought I told Aiden Carter about our talk. If I had, I wouldn't be following Aiden Carter around now. Shaking with fear, he was still so angry. I could feel the cold coming off him. That evening after my shower, I didn't know what to do. If I got into my own bed, would he hurt me like he hurt Matthew? But if I went back to his bed, what was the point of what I said earlier? I stood there drying my hair, not sure what to do. Aiden Carter was looking at his phone, but his eyes were really watching me. He looked like a wild animal watching its dinner. When Aiden wasn't smiling, his eyes naturally turned down at the corners, and with his sharp face, he looked scary. It was only 8 p.m., but our roommates were already in bed. I could still feel them sneaking looks at us, though. When I reached for the ladder to my top bunk, Aiden's eyes turned deadly sharp. Quietly, I pulled my hand back and walked to his bed instead. His face softened right away. I tried to climb over him to lie down, but as soon as I settled, he pressed against me and wrapped his arms around me tight. He nuzzled his head against my ear and neck, making my skin tingle all over. I tried to move my head away a little. Suddenly, he bit my ear angrily and said, "Don't you dare try to avoid me." I froze and moved my head back. Happy with this, he started gently licking where he'd just bitten. His touch sent shivers through my whole body, making me shake, but I didn't dare move away again. It felt like forever before he finally stopped. Then he whispered in my ear, his voice deep, "It's a good thing you didn't sleep on the top bunk. Otherwise..." As he spoke, his hand moved to my waist and squeezed. He didn't finish what he was saying, but I could hear the warning in his voice. I was shaking like crazy. Slowly, he moved his hand away and tucked the blanket around me. I was too scared to ask what would have happened if I'd chosen the top bunk. I had a feeling it would have been worse than I could imagine. 3 days went by, and Aiden Carter seemed to forget about that night. He acted normal again, but something was different. He kept finding reasons to touch me, but when I shook with fear, he'd stop. I saw Matthew Moore a few times during these days. Every time he saw me, he'd quickly look down and walk away fast. I figured Aiden Carter must have told him to stay away from me. Standing there with my water bottle, I took a drink and remembered something. Last time at Aiden Carter's basketball game, during a break, he'd come over for water. When he reached for my bottle that I'd already drunk from, I tried to give him a new one instead. His face had gotten dark then. He made me drink from the new bottle first, before he would drink from it. Now, every time I give him water, I always take a sip first. During today's break, Aiden Carter walked straight to me. Girls nearby started squealing, whispering about how handsome he was. He ignored them all. He lifted his jersey to wipe his face and held out his hand to me. I gave him the water right away. As he took it, his fingers touched mine. Then I heard a girl say clearly, "They look so good together." Everyone around us turned to look. Scared, I pulled my hand back quickly. Aiden Carter's face turned dark again. I knew he was angry. Right away, he grabbed my hand that I'd pulled away and held it against the water bottle with his. He drank the water like nobody was watching. He looked calm, but our fingers were locked together. I couldn't pull away no matter how hard I tried. The screaming around us got louder. All I could see was Aiden Carter's dark eyes telling me how unhappy he was. Really unhappy. In the second half, he played rough, almost dangerous. I felt worried watching him. I knew I was in trouble tonight. Sure enough, after my shower, Aiden Carter pushed me down on the bed. His hands started moving over my body. "Don't, please don't," I begged quietly. The more I tried to stop him, the rougher he got. My stomach and chest started to sting. His hands kept moving while his warm breath touched my ear. "Don't what?" he whispered deeply. Even with the bed curtains hiding us, sounds could still be heard. Our roommates were right there in the room. I bit my lip hard. Then his touch suddenly turned gentle, making my skin tingle. But his hand started moving lower. I grabbed it quickly, holding tight. "Don't, please don't." I looked at him with begging eyes, silently asking him to stop. "We're both guys. Why can't I touch you there?" I shook my head frantically, feeling cold sweat break out all over. He softly stroked my head, his voice gentle but dangerous. "If I can't touch, then let me kiss you just once." His eyes stayed on my lips, full of want. "No, you can't kiss me. It's weird," I said, turning away. His breathing got heavier, and without waiting, his hand slipped into my pants. "Then we'll just keep going," he said. I held onto his hands tight, tears starting to fall. My voice shook as I spoke. "Don't do this, Aiden. I don't want it." He stopped, his eyes turning soft as he looked at me gently. "Why are you crying? I'm not hurting you." He wiped my tears and pulled my head against his chest. "Will you still avoid me?" I shook my head quickly. He took my hand and kissed it, then started licking it. His tongue moved between my fingers, over my fingertips, down to my palm. My hand curled up by itself, and strange feelings ran through me. "If you don't want me to keep going, don't move," he said quietly. I stayed completely still. He kept kissing my hand until it was wet, gave it a small bite, then got up and went to the bathroom. Looking at my hand, I had a strange thought. Aiden was like a dog marking what belonged to him. Really, from what Matthew had said and how Aiden had been acting, I understood now. Aiden liked me, but his need to own me was too much, almost scary. I didn't know what to do, but I was too afraid to make him angry. All I could do was try to keep him calm. I had no idea what would happen next. He was getting more and more intense. I sighed and tightened the string on my pants. I fell asleep before Aiden came back from the bathroom. When I woke up the next morning, I noticed the knot I'd tied in my pants string was undone. I looked at Aiden in panic, but his face was calm, showing nothing. I felt better and thought maybe I had just untied the knot myself while sleeping. That evening, my mom called. "Hello, Mom. How's everything at home?" "Nothing much. You remember the neighbor's little girl? The one who said she wanted to marry you when she grew up? She got into your school. Since she'll be far from home and doesn't know anyone, please help her. Help her move her things when the new students come in a few days." "Okay," I said. After hanging up, I felt worried. Should I tell Aiden? He gets upset when I'm close to other people. But Maybe telling him would be better than him finding out later and getting angry. That would be worse for me. While I was still trying to figure out how to tell him, Aiden said, I'm going to the States for a few days, about 4. It was the same time as new student arrival, so I decided not to tell him. He wouldn't be here anyway. Okay, I nodded. Aiden suddenly pulled me close, sounding annoyed. This is so annoying being apart for days. Why don't you come with me? I have to work my part-time job, I said. Fine, Aiden said, his eyes dropping sadly. When I met Megan, she was struggling with her bags. I quickly took them from her. After helping her move in, I showed her around school. Each city is so big, she said, amazed. Yeah, there are so many things here we didn't have back home, I agreed. Maybe because we came from the same village, we couldn't stop talking. Everything felt easy and natural with her. That night, after walking Megan to her dorm, Aiden called. As soon as I answered, he started yelling. Who's that girl? I'm gone for one day and you're already running after some woman? She's just a friend from my village, I said quickly, trying to calm him down. A friend? A friend you smile at like that? Do you think I'm stupid? Listen, Evan. Before I get back, stay away from her or I'll make her life hell. Go ahead, test me if you want to see what happens when you really make me angry, Aiden, I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though I could feel my anger rising. I couldn't take his words anymore. Megan and I had fought so hard to get here. Back in our mountain village, girls like Megan would already be married with kids if they weren't great at school. Not many girls got to chase their dreams there. I knew every step of her hard journey, but Aiden Carter could ruin it all in a second. Don't be like what? He shot back. Come on, Evan. You know I like you, so you're pushing me on purpose, aren't you? You think I won't get mad no matter what you do, right? His words hurt me deep inside. Aiden, you don't like me at all. You just want to control everything I do. I'm nothing but a plaything to you, I yelled, my feelings spilling out. As soon as I said it, I wished I could take it back. Aiden Carter had been nothing but kind to me since I arrived. He taught me about everything that was new to me without ever making fun of me. He took me to my first 3D movie, showed me different foods, took me shopping, and made sure I had fun at theme parks. He showed me how to use computers and phones, helped me get on my first plane, and did so much more for me. When people made fun of how I spoke English, he stood up for me. When he found out I wasn't eating right, he got someone to plan healthy meals for me. When I got sick, he stayed with me in the hospital all night, taking care of me. Aiden, I didn't mean that. Please let me explain, I said quickly, trying to fix things. The call cut off. There was silence for what felt like forever. Then I heard him laugh, but it wasn't his usual warm laugh. It was cold and mean. What's there to explain? Aiden's voice was like ice. Yeah, you're just a toy to me. So what? You think I can't get anyone I want? Go hang out with whoever you want. Then he hung up. I called him back right away, but all I got was the busy tone. He didn't answer any of my messages either. Maybe, I thought, he really was done with me. I had said such awful things to him. My chest felt heavy, like something was crushing me, and I couldn't breathe. After he ignored my calls 17 times, I knew I had broken something special between me and Aiden Carter. When we were friends, he had always been so patient with me. Aiden usually let me do whatever I wanted, except when it came to avoiding him or not taking care of myself. We hardly ever fought, just once before. I had worked too much and then got caught in the rain late one night. I ended up in the hospital with a bad fever. When I woke up, the doctor wanted me to stay another day to make sure I was okay. But all I could think about was my part-time job off campus. I also worried about paying more hospital bills. Just as I was getting ready to leave, Aiden walked in with my phone. He told me he'd already called my boss to get me a day off. This job had been paying for my food and school fees since my first year. Even though it was hard work, the schedule and money were just what I needed. Around that time, my school advisor had dropped hints that I couldn't wait any longer to pay my tuition. I was the only student who hadn't paid yet. Because of this, I never missed a day of work, even when I was sick. I was so afraid I wouldn't make enough money for school. Why did you ask for a sick day without asking me? I yelled at Aiden. Don't you know how much I need this money? But Aiden didn't get it. For him, being healthy came first. "If you need money, just ask me," he said. "I'll give it to you. And that job, I've always hated it. They're working you too hard. If you hadn't been so stubborn about keeping your word, I would have made you quit already." This was our first real fight. I got so angry that I shouted, "You have no right to make choices for me. Stop trying to control my life." Aiden shot back, "You think I want to control you? Fine. Do whatever you want. If you don't care about your health, why should I? Trying to help you is pointless. You don't even appreciate it. Go ahead and destroy yourself. See if I care." He slammed the door so hard when he left that the walls shook. Later, one of the nurses told me something that made me feel awful. "Your friend might look tough," she said, "but he really cares about you. You should have seen him when your fever hit 104 degrees. He was so worried he could barely stand still. He kept asking us why your fever wasn't going down. And when you were out of it, he watched your IV like a hawk, making sure everything was okay." The nurse also told me something that touched my heart. He never once looked at his phone the whole time he was here. Guilt hit me hard then. I had been so mean to Aiden when he was just worried about me. If it wasn't for him, I might have been lying alone in my dorm room with a dangerous fever, and nobody would have known. And he'd been there since 3 a.m. He probably barely got any sleep, just sitting there watching over me. The more I thought about it, the worse I felt about how I'd acted. I quickly grabbed my phone and called him. He didn't answer the first 2 times, but on the third try, he picked up with a quiet, "Hello." He didn't say anything else, just waited in silence. "I didn't mean what I said earlier. I'm really sorry. Can you forgive me?" I asked softly. When Aiden finally spoke, I could hear him trying to hold back his anger. "Weren't you just telling me to stay out of your life?" "I was wrong," I whispered. "Are you still at the hospital this morning?" "Yes." Aiden made an annoyed sound. I'm buying fruit." "What kind do you want? And don't you dare say nothing. If you don't eat, I'll make you regret it." That was the only fight we'd ever had before today. Even though it was pretty bad, he still let me explain myself. Maybe he never really wanted to be mad at me in the first place. But this time was different. Aiden wasn't answering my calls or messages. He really wanted nothing to do with me anymore. I sat on my bed in the dorm, thinking for a long time. If Aiden really didn't want me around, it didn't feel right to keep living in the same room. That evening, I went to ask about changing rooms. Maybe because I'd never caused trouble before. They said yes right away. I filled out the papers the next morning and started packing that afternoon. But when my roommate saw me moving my things, his eyes got huge. "Evan, you're moving out?" he asked, stumbling over his words. "Does Brother Aiden know about this?" No, Aiden didn't know. But I figured if he didn't want me around, that was kind of like saying it was okay. I nodded. My roommate's jaw dropped so wide you could have fit an apple in it. He tried one more time. "Are you sure he knows? You should really tell him first. With Brother Aiden's temper, I don't think you can handle what might happen." In that moment, it hit me like a bucket of cold water. He was right. If Aiden got angry enough to hit me, one punch would be all it took. I probably wouldn't be able to get back up. I had to move fast. Aiden wouldn't be back for 2 days, but what if he came back early and found me still here? What if he locked the door and decided to teach me a lesson? I packed faster, telling my roommate, yeah, he knows about it, even though that was a lie. When I got to my new room, there was only one person there. He was tall and strong, with colorful tattoos covering his arm. He looked mean, the kind of person you'd want to avoid. I said a quick hello and started making my bed, trying not to draw attention. But he got up, walked over, and put his dirty shoe right on my clean mattress. "Aren't you Aiden's little follower? You two are always together. Weren't you sharing a room with him? What happened? Did he get tired of you?" His words made my skin crawl. "That's between me and him." "Mind your own business," I snapped back, pushing his foot off my bed. But before I could finish making it, he grabbed my arm and pushed me down. His smile made me sick, and his eyes had an evil look. I heard some things about you and Aiden. For him to keep you around for 2 years, you must be special at something. The way he looked at me made me want to throw up. There's nothing like that between us. Let me go, I yelled. His smile got worse. How about this? Why don't you try me instead? I'll pay you double what he does, and I'm better than him. I'll make sure you... I slapped him hard across the face before he could finish, making his head turn. I remembered Aiden's words. If anyone tries to bully you, fight back, you have me behind you. They won't dare hurt you. But Aiden wasn't here now. How dare you hit me? I'll kill you! His face twisted with anger, eyes red with rage as he raised his hand to hit me. I closed my eyes tight, my whole body shaking with fear. Suddenly, I heard a terrible scream. The pain I was waiting for never came. I knew that voice. When I opened my eyes, I saw Aiden. He was punching the creep over and over. The guy couldn't even fight back. He looked like he was about to pass out. I snapped out of my shock and ran to grab Aiden, hugging him from behind. Stop! You'll kill him! When he heard my voice, Aiden's muscles relaxed. He looked me over carefully from head to toe, his voice dark with worry. I shook my head, letting him know I was okay. Aiden breathed out in relief. He ignored the guy on the ground, grabbed my hand, and pulled me outside, taking me to the little grove, the place where everyone went for privacy. My fingers kept fidgeting as we walked. I couldn't read Aiden's mood. He'd been ignoring my calls, so why did he come find me? Still, I was so thankful he did. I didn't want to think about what might have happened if he hadn't. Aiden didn't say anything as he led me deep into the grove, but his face was dark with anger. When we reached the wall at the back of the grove, before I could ask why we were there, he pushed me against it. His hand held the back of my neck, making me look up at him. Then he kissed me hard. When I couldn't breathe anymore, he finally let go. As I tried to catch my breath, my legs gave out and I started to slide down. Aiden caught me, wrapped his arms around my waist and held me tight against him. Just when I got my breath back, he kissed me again, biting my lips softly. He kept doing this until I had to beg him to stop. Please, Aiden. Enough. I know I was wrong, I pleaded. His face stayed blank as he touched my swollen lips. It stung enough to make my eyes water. Looking up at him with tears in my eyes, I whispered, Brother, I really know I was wrong. He didn't stop. Tell me exactly what you did wrong, he said, his voice empty of emotion. I shouldn't have said I was just your toy. I shouldn't have tried to move out without telling you. And I shouldn't have gotten close to another girl without letting you know, I said all at once. He ran his fingers gently through my hair, speaking softly but firmly. Will you let me take care of you now? I nodded quickly. Yes. Afraid he might not believe me, I added. Only you. Earlier, when that creep had touched my arm, I'd felt sick. That's when I realized something. Not all touches were the same. When Aiden touched me, I was nervous too, but it was different. It wasn't fear or disgust. It was like electricity running through my whole body, making my skin tingle and my heart race. It left me feeling helpless in a way I couldn't explain. That's when it hit me. I might actually like Aiden. Aiden hummed, seeming happy with what I'd said. In the moonlight, Aiden's sharp features looked softer. Just as I started to relax, he spoke again, his words slow and careful. And what else? I froze, opened my mouth, but couldn't think of anything else. When his face darkened, I looked down, feeling guilty. I don't know. He made a sharp laughing sound. Don't know? You don't know what you did? That night when you tied your pajama strings in a tight knot before bed? What, you thought I couldn't touch you? So it was Aiden who had untied them that night. Then, why didn't you say anything back then? I asked softly, not really expecting an answer. How could I say anything? What right do I have? Do I even get a say in your life? His lips curved into a half smile. Who am I to you anyway? For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. He watched me, waiting. When I stayed quiet, his smile disappeared. He let go of my waist and started to walk away. Exactly. I'm nobody to you. I have no right to interfere. Go ahead. Wear thick pants in summer, wear flip-flops in winter. It's not my business. I won't care if you're too hot or too cold. Wash your own clothes. Dry your own hair. Like you said, you can do everything without me. Do whatever you want. I won't care. Watching him walk away, I didn't even think. I ran forward and hugged him tight from behind. I want you to care. He turned around and pulled me to face him. Looking down into my eyes, his face full of teasing, he said, I have no right to care. No title. Who am I to you? Even though I'm slow sometimes, I knew what he wanted to hear. My face got hot and I looked down, too shy to meet his eyes. I bit my lip and whispered, boyfriend, so quietly I could barely hear myself. Are you saying it because you have to? You know I hate forcing people. If you really don't want to, we can forget it. His voice was half joking, half serious, but it scared me enough to say it again, louder this time, afraid he might really give up. Boyfriend! You're my boyfriend! His smile grew wider as he kissed the corner of my mouth. I heard you, boyfriend. Then Aiden helped me move all my things back to our old room. Back in our room, I learned the creep had been taken to the hospital. I looked at Aiden, worried. He gave me a gentle smile. Don't worry, you'll never see him again. I shook my head. That's not what I mean. Will you get in trouble? He raised an eyebrow, smirking. Worried about me, are you? I nodded honestly, making him laugh. Relax. He won't dare say anything. I know enough about him to keep him quiet. I thought Aiden was just trying to make me feel better. But 2 days later, that guy's parents came to handle his paperwork to leave school. When I got back to the dorm, my roommates saw my swollen lips and stayed quiet, but their faces said they knew exactly what had happened. I stared at my feet, embarrassed. Aiden laughed softly. Why are you shy? Everyone in the dorm knows I've been treating you like someone I want to marry. You're the only one with a head thick enough to think we were just friends. He paused, thinking. Maybe I should thank Matthew. He's awful. But without him, you might still think we're just friends. Remembering Matthew's last words made me feel sad. Aiden noticed and asked, What's wrong? Don't like Matthew? I'll go beat him up again tomorrow. I had to laugh at that. No, it's not that. I just wonder, will your parents accept me? He let out a big breath, relieved. I thought it was something serious. I told them I liked a guy from the moment I met you. They've always known about you. Actually, since I'm so picky about cleaning and have such a bad temper, they're just happy someone likes me at all. They're grateful anyone can put up with me. He said it like it was nothing, but my heart felt heavy. With my parents, it might be harder. They're like me. They don't even know two men can be together. Even though I have an older brother to carry on the family name, my parents still think all their sons should get married and have kids. I quickly added, but I don't regret choosing to be with you. I thought about it carefully. I just want you to know it might be hard. Will you stay with me through it? He kissed my forehead softly. Getting your parents to accept me is my job. After all, I'm the one who made their son fall in love with me. Don't worry, I said, squeezing his hand tight. I'll do my best to make them like you. I looked into his eyes and smiled. We'll do it together. Life changed quickly after Aiden Carter and I started dating. We moved out of our dorm rooms and into a house he picked near campus. It wasn't far, so our daily routine stayed pretty much the same as before. We still went to the same classes and ate at the same places. The only difference was now we did it all together. Everyone at school knew about us by this point. The biggest change was in me. I wasn't scared anymore. Before, I used to jump away from Aiden whenever someone looked our way. I was always worried people would think something wrong about us. But now Now we walked across campus holding hands, not caring who saw us. Our friends would laugh and call us too sweet and lovey-dovey, but we didn't mind. Then came the day I saw Matthew in the hallway. Without thinking, I pulled my hand away from Aiden's. It was just an old habit, but Aiden's face changed instantly. He pushed me against the wall, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to make his point. When he bit my lip, I tasted a tiny bit of blood. "Baby," he growled, his voice low and serious. "Don't you dare try to hide from me again." I almost wanted to cry, but not from fear, from knowing I'd hurt his feelings. Now I'd have to spend all night making him happy again, though secretly, I didn't mind that part too much. When summer break came around, I took Aiden home to meet my family. That first night, I sat my parents down and told them everything about us. They didn't take it well at all. They wouldn't even look at Aiden, let alone speak to him nicely. But Aiden didn't give up. Every single day, he showed up at our house like clockwork. He helped my mom cook meals and did the laundry without being asked. He swept the floors until they sparkled and even planted a little vegetable garden in our backyard. He bought new furniture for the house when he noticed the old stuff was wearing out and always brought health supplements for my parents. He drove them anywhere they wanted to go, never complaining about the long trips to the market or the doctor's office. He even made friends with all the old ladies who sat at the village entrance, gossiping all day, bringing them snacks and listening to their stories. When he played mahjong with my parents, he would lose on purpose, making them feel good about winning. By the end of summer, something amazing happened. The whole village loved him. Even the grumpiest neighbors would smile when they saw him coming. And finally, after seeing how hard he tried and how much everyone else liked him, my parents gave in. They said we could be together. Aiden was so happy, he picked me up and spun me around like we were in a movie. That night, we lay in the grass behind my house, holding hands and looking up at the stars. The sky was so clear, it felt like we could see every star in the universe. "Baby," he whispered, his voice soft and full of love. "I really love." I couldn't help smiling. "I love you the same way." He turned to look at me, a little smile playing on his lip. "Then let's get married." Right after he said those words, the night sky exploded with color. Fireworks burst overhead, painting the darkness with gold and red and blue. In the middle of all that beauty, Aiden somehow pulled out a bunch of roses and got down on one knee. He held out a ring that sparkled in the fireworks' light. "Baby!" he had to shout over the noise of the firework. "Will you marry me?" My eyes filled with happy tears, and I shouted back as loud as I could, "Yes, I will!" We kissed right there under the firework, and it felt like time stopped just for us. We didn't need to say anything else. The way we looked at each other, the way we kissed, it said everything. Some people spend their whole lives looking for a love like ours, and there we were, lucky enough to have found it when we were young. That kiss held all our dreams, all our hopes, and all our love. It wasn't just a moment, it was a promise of forever.